Now with Sigma announcing their new 16 to 28mm full-frame wide-angle zoom, we have two very similar spec lenses on the market. The Sigma and this very well-established Tamron 17 to 28mm f2.8. Now, the question is, which one is better? In this video, I will compare them side by side, look into the image and video quality they deliver, and hopefully help you to make your own mind up. So don't skip, keep watching to find out more. Before I go into it, I need to tell you that in this video, every time when I compare the images and video from these lenses side by side, Tamron will always be on the left and Sigma on the right of the screen. And also when showing the samples independently, I'll label them in a similar way, Tamron label on the left and Sigma on the right. Hopefully this will make it a little bit easier to follow and see instantly what you are looking at. I am a very long time Tamron user, and I have been using this giant 15 to 35mm for a few years on my Nikon DSLR cameras. Amazing lens. So when I have started to use solid mirrorless cameras, Tamron was my #1 brand to go to for wide angle zoom. This 17 to 28mm was my choice, and I have been using it regularly for a while now, but somehow it never excited me enough. In fact, this is the only lens that I actually own that I have not reviewed on this channel. It served me as a tool, focal range that I needed to use, but yeah, for me there was always something missing with it. I am not going to do any scientific tests to compare these lenses side by side, but I will show you the autofocus performance of both in photography and video. I am going to compare the build, the price, and then give you my final thoughts. So photography, autofocus, in general scenario, everyday situation, these lenses perform identically to me. Very fast, snappy AF without any hunting. With some lenses, especially when focusing on something close and missing that minimal focusing distance, it is hard to engage AF. Again, literally zero issues with both of these lenses. Minimal focusing distance, Tamron wins here, as you can get as close as 19 centimeters to your subject with it, and Sigma's minimal focusing distance is 25 centimeters. Both equally good at getting close to your subject with, and both excellent with capturing almost micro-like images, especially at the 28mm end of the zoom. Eye tracking works great with both when shooting photos or video with a7 IV. There's very little between two of them when it comes to the performance. In fact, even though I thought that I am going to see some difference between them, and somehow I presumed that the Tamron will not perform as well as Sigma, I was wrong. Performance-wise, AF performance, they are pretty much identical in my opinion. I think Sigma is marginally sharper wide open. This is especially more visible when getting close to your subject. Sigma produces images that are razor sharp, when Tamron, even though sharp, ever so slightly softer. We are talking about minuscule differences here though. Sigma is definitely more contrasty around the edges, not exactly vignettic, but the edges of the images are darker than those from Tamron. Almost identical bokeh from both. Sigma's tiny bit smoother, and that again is very small difference. It's not something obviously visible without actually looking at the photos taken with both side by side like this. There's no focus breathing visible at all with both, and they both are not parfocal. The biggest difference, and the obvious one, is the focal range. 1mm difference between them, with Sigma giving you that tiny bit extra wide coverage. Shooting outdoors, landscape, or any other type of photography outdoors, this literally makes very little difference. You can tell 16mm is tiny bit wider when comparing the same photos taken with both of these lenses at the same time, but in the real world situations, you'd step back as much as you have to get as much in the frame as possible. The only time when this will make a bit of difference is when shooting interiors, real estate, and shooting in the tight spaces. That 1mm could be a little bit more important, but too small difference between them in reality for it to be a game changer. Both are not stabilized, and both are perfect for vlogging or filming yourself handheld, and also superb for use on a gimbal. That's what I mainly bought the Tamron for originally. Both lenses are small and both zoom internally. They don't extend out, so you can change the focal length without the need to rebalance the gimbal every time. Overall performance of these two lenses is pretty much identical, or almost identical. Builds, these lenses are in their own class when it comes to wide angle, wide aperture zooms. Certainly small and light. Tamron is marginally lighter, weighing 420 gram when Sigma weighs 450 gram. Different filter thread sizes, 72mm on Sigma and 67mm on Tamron. This is actually ironic because the bigger brother, Sigma 28 to 70mm f2.8, has got filter thread of 67mm like the Tamron and all other Tamrons. Construction is also different. Tamron has got the zoom ring first and then smaller focus ring opposite to Sigma. I personally prefer to have the focus ring at the front of the lens, easier to feel for it when you are looking through the camera. But this is not as important with lenses which are very good at autofocusing as these are. One thing to note is that the zoom ring turns the opposite directions on these lenses to zoom in. Tamron is more traditional, same as with some of the lenses turning from right to left to zoom in when the Sigma turns from left to right. This is not a problem at all, but if you use multiple lenses all the time from different brands and you have only this one Sigma, it might be a little bit frustrating sometimes. Once you get used to it, it makes zero difference. There's no buttons on Tamron at all, but on Sigma you do have simple standard auto manual focus switch. Overall, both build well, both looking great, but maybe, just maybe, even though it is much older lens, Tamron is looking more modern. But that is absolutely subjective and makes no difference to how they perform. The price, brand new Sigma retails for £749 here in UK or $899 in US, and Tamron costs £899 or $799. This is really weird how they are priced so differently. Sigma is better value here in UK than it is across the pond in US. In US, Tamron is cheaper. As these lenses are very similar in every way, there might be offers or even price change from both manufacturers to compete more with each other in the future. Tamron has been out since 2019 and there will be a lot of them around on a second-hand market when Sigma will only start shipping this month. If the price is your main deciding factor, Tamron could be cheaper if you shop around or go for a second-hand one, but most likely the price won't be a factor when choosing any of them for most of people who are already invested in Sigma or Tamron ecosystem. Most likely you are going to go with what you know and stick with the same brand you're already using. Conclusion, it is impossible to say which one is better for me right now. I convinced myself that Sigma is better when I started shooting with it, but after shooting with both of them side by side, the differences are so minuscule that for me there is no real winner here. I have already pre-ordered the Sigma lens, but now I am thinking that maybe I have made a little bit rushed decision here. Sigma is marginally sharper, but not significantly. I also think Tamron sometimes produces too warm tones, especially when shooting indoors, but all that is easily corrected in post. Recently, Tamron have updated their 28 to 75mm to version 2, and I wouldn't be surprised if this gets a new update sometime soon. This could instantly make it a winner if it had same as 28 to 75mm USB-C socket and ability to change lens functionality via free Tamron utility software, like changing focus ring to be aperture ring or changing the focus to linear and focus throw length. But right now, this is it, and it is very, very similar to this Sigma lens performance wise. If I owned both and I had to choose one to shoot with today, I think I'd pick Sigma, but only because it is newer and maybe psychologically more exciting. Personal choice, first feeling, not based on the fact that this lens is much better than this one. It's not. And this is it from me. I hope this video was in some way helpful or entertaining. If it was, please give me the thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. Follow me on Instagram for more photos and videos from all of the lenses that I review here on this channel. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. In this video, I will compare them side by side, look into the image and video quality, and I know how to make a mistake. My money don't jiggle, it falls. Most likely you are going to go with for watch. Who wrote this script? Tamron is marginally light. Oh, this is the wrong script.